Grab a cold one, heat up those wings, and get ready to fire up your engines. It's Fanside on RaceCanada.world. With your hosts, Cam K and Graydon Bunn.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanside, RaceCanada.world, and of course on our YouTube channel. We are so excited to welcome one of the voices of the NASCAR Pintys Series on TSN to the show. We're very excited to have Dave Bradley. You can also hear him, mind you, on AM 640 with your daily news. Dave, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you on.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm excited to be here. I really am.
Well, we wouldn't be here without Remax Jack, so we want to thank Remax Jack for sponsoring this episode with Dave Bradley. Start to pack, call Remax Jack. He'll help you out. Graydon, one of the things that you and I have in common is we love racing. We love the NASCAR Pintys Series. Adam Ross, we've had on the show, and now we get the other half to Adam Ross in the booth. We get Dave Bradley. How cool is this?
Oh, man. This is, I've kind of put it out there. I've been pretty excited about this. We're really glad to have you here, Dave. And as a news guy, I just heard this on the radio today myself, as we're kind of a similar demographic. And as a proud Canadian, I heard today there is a Fraggle Rock reboot and they're keeping it Canadian. What are your thoughts on that?
Very excited. I mean,
I couldn't believe it. I was doing my plow run today and I heard that and I was super stoked.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not racing related, I know. Takes you back, right?
For sure.
Well, we went off a little weird of a season last year, Dave. It wasn't what it normally was. You didn't have fans in the stands, but the racing was phenomenal as always. I'm gonna start off with a loaded question here, Dave, because I feel that I've been a little timid in terms of asking questions. So I feel, who's a better guy to answer this than somebody that's seen the series since it became the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. So one of the things that we've talked about in many conversations, Graydon and I have talked about sponsorship, and that it is very hard to come by in racing. And in Canada, it seems it's even harder because we have hockey, we have basketball. If you're going to talk to a bunch of companies from Canada, what is the selling point for the NASCAR Pintys for them? What do you think that they would get out of it?
Well, I think obviously the TV package is a big time selling point. I mean, you get national TV coverage just by sponsoring a car in this series. And, how many mentions, and we as broadcasters, we try to focus on not necessarily the two cars that are running at the front, because that could be the two every single week or whatever. We try and run down through the pack and you'll see a glimpse of a car. Maybe they're having an off day and we'll still try and get a mention in and try and get their sponsor name out. So we try and work hard for the racers because we know we need those racers for the series and we need their backers too. So, if they've sold a package to a sponsor and said, we're racing in front of a national audience and they never get seen, well, then the sponsor is going to be like, wait a second, what am I spending all this money for if I'm not getting anything out of it? But so I think, from our perspective, that's what we try and do to help out the people who are running in the series and try and promote the series and build it up. I mean, it doesn't really need a lot of extra building up. I mean, as soon as the races start, you're just like, wow, this is amazing. But try and tell the stories of the people, the background stories. There's a lot there in the pits. And I think for sponsors and for drivers in the series, kudos to them because it is so professional. I mean, you look at the cars, they are always pristine when they show up to the track. The rigs are clean, the uniforms are clean, and everything just looks good. For a top tier national series in Canada, you really can't beat it.
Yeah, I think we can definitely, speak to racing as a whole has struggled,
Oh, yeah.
But there's been a bit of a resurgence this year. It seems in this offseason, getting names like Michael Jordan, getting names like Pitbull. That's huge to get names like that involved in motorsports down south. So I love this question because I want to see who people would consider. But if you had to pick a Canadian celebrity to own a NASCAR Pinty Series team, and you can't say Patrice Brisebois because we already know that he did that. Same with Marc-Andre Bergeron. So
he's done that.
You've got to pick somebody that we haven't seen, but we think would be phenomenal for the series.
That's a really good question. It'd have to be, and there's a lot of hidden gearheads.
Yes, there is.
You know what I mean? So it would have to be somebody who has sort of an automotive background, who goes to the car shows, because sometimes you'll go to a car show and you're like, wait a second, is that who I think it is? And sure enough, it is. So that's a really tough question. I mean, it would be nice to have somebody with super deep pockets so they could really put a solid team on display. You know, but tough one, a tough one to answer. I don't know. Maybe let me sit on that one for a second and I'll come back.
So no Dave Bradley Racing yet? No,
we have our own small race team, which race team pretty much self-fund at this point. It was
right now we'll have to pot all of our money together and create Fanside Motorsports. We'll get there eventually.
There you go. See, once you guys hit it big, you guys can be the celebrities.
Be first in line for it. If we could ever do that, I think Cam and I would both be up for that. As with Stephen Ellis, I mean, seeing our Fanside logo go around the track on an iRace, like that's huge. I mean, it's so cool to have that out there and to have the mentions like Adam did. Like, oh my God, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? iRacing has come a long way too. I mean,
it sure has.
Yeah, that's legitimate racing. And I called a bunch of races last year that Adam was running in. And so Todd and I helped him out at one point at the end of the year. Or, no, I guess it was in May. So at the end of the first wave of the pandemic. Feels like the end of a year. But and so I was like, really? I'm calling video games? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do it. But then once the races start, I'm like, this is legitimate racing. And I got right into it. So much so that my wife was like, man, you're really excited about this, this video game racing. And I'm like, it's real racing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dave, I completely relate to you on that. Like where when we first started seeing the televised versions of it, that's I'll fully admit it. That's how I felt. I'm like, okay, we're essentially watching people play video games. And now that I know more about it, I will say that is not the case anymore. The spirit of competition is there. And now, especially, we know a couple of iRacers, Davin at Drive-Thru on Twitter and Drive-Thru Designs that designed our logo. He's an iRacer. Steven's an iRacer. And like the spirit of competition is there. But back to the Pintys Series, it's all the same in terms of the spirit of competition. And as you talk to with my boys a little bit, the Pintys Series has such a diverse amount, like drivers from all kinds of different backgrounds. I mean, tag with open wheel, and then you have DJ and Jason that are the dedicated oval racers. I guess Jason's stepping away. Maybe for the last time. That'll remain to be seen, right?
We'll give it a year.
But yeah, you've had the opportunity to work in the series, and can you just elaborate a little more what it's like to I mean, you're kind of living like what Cam and I are dreaming about, where you got the best seat in the house and you have the miracle of television sort of at your fingertips with Joel in your corner. What's it like to call the races up there?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, it's not work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Every time you go to the track, it's just like, am I really getting paid to do this? Which is pretty awesome. Because, and I've said this all along, really since I started covering races and going to work at a racetrack, I'm just like, realistically, I'd be paying to be sitting in the grandstands anyway, so I might as well do this and get paid. But
Right.
yeah, working with the group that I've been able to work with, all along, starting with Billy Rouse in the tower, and Jim Robinson, who was Joel's dad, and then Joel himself, and now working with Adam, and Adam and I have had a relationship even before we started working together on the Pintys Series. We knew each other just from calling races around different areas and stuff like that.
Cool.
Once you're a track announcer in Ontario, you kind of know the other track announcers.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, but I didn't know that, so that's a fun fact. Neat.
And plus, Adam was the trackside announcer at the races too, so you run into him, you talk to him, and so yeah, we developed a relationship like that, and it's further solidified now that we work together in the booth. We have a lot of fun. I mean, Adam's he drops a lot of jokes on us, and we're like, where are you coming from? But it keeps it light and keeps it fun in the booth. So yeah, yes, it's serious. Yes, there's a lot of money on the line at times, but you know what? It's not rocket science, and it's not life or death. As far as the news goes, I mean, that's my day job, right? That's sort of what pays my bills every day, and that's pretty heavy. You're dealing with police calls and ambulance calls and stuff like that. So then you get into racing, and I'm like, man, this is good. This is fun. Serious at times, again, when you got a tight battle on the go, but you can also smile about it.
I don't want to hog the mic on Cam here, but that kind of segued into like as you said, as your day job, the Pintys Series and racing in general for you. I mean, you're telling a lot of the real world problems. I mean, racing it's the same for everyone in terms of fandom, where racing's just a place where we can go and just watch the purity of it and enjoy it, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of escapism, right?
Sure.
I mean, people who make it their career and their lives, it's not escapism. It's work. It's their lives. They're trying to make a living doing it, for sure, and it's very serious. So you have to take that note as well. For them, it means putting food on their table if they're going to get that sponsor, if they're going to get that winner's paycheck. So so you have to treat that with as much respect as you would something else as well. But you're right. I mean, it's racing, it's sports, it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, then it's just frustrating, and nobody's going to want to go if it's not fun, right?
Yeah.
And you're right in saying that. Like, we all know people that that is the case, where racing does put the food on their table. So I mean, in times like this, where that's almost kind of where the show was born from, is just keeping the hype alive and helping keep the energy up there until we get to see racing again, which is in Canada long enough. But with times like this, when we don't know exactly when it's going to happen again, we got to bridge that gap.
Yeah, totally. And it will happen. I mean, it'll happen sooner rather than later, for sure. We'll be there. I'm predicting we'll be together at a track again this summer, for sure.
That's probably the best.
Nice.
The best. We should just end it right there. That could have been the best.
Yeah, I'll shut up now. It's over to you, Cam.
Yeah. Let me just.
Well,
with another visitor.
The video bomb. Yeah.
Nala just wanted to say hi. Yeah. So for one of the things that I wanted to start doing in these interviews was talking with somebody of your caliber, somebody that is a veteran. She's just going to keep walking around here. So
that's cool.
A veteran of the NASCAR Pintys Series. Again, since 2007, when NASCAR came in, you were the voice. You've seen a lot of drivers come and go. You've seen a lot of tracks come and go. So almost like a rapid fire. I don't know if you're up for this, but we'll give it a shot here.
I'm ready to go.
You've seen a lot of names, obviously, a lot of legends in our series. In your opinion, one of the most that should have been given a shot down south that you thought was, top of the line in our series that maybe doesn't get the recognition. Okay. So it's a loaded question, but we'll start with that one.
There are, I don't know if there is just one that you can say, first and foremost, that person needs a shot.
Good answer. Yeah.
And, would be able to succeed, because I can think off the top of my head, there is 10. You know what I mean? And even if you look back to the NASCAR days, moving into the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series and now the Pintys Series, you look at somebody, like Kerry Mix, who was so good early on. Don Thompson was so good too for so long. J.R. Fitzpatrick, his teammate, had some great runs and some great runs in our series, and then down in the U.S. obviously did fairly well. You have to mention Andrew Ranger. Even to this day, he's still a very strong force in the NASCAR Pinty Series, an exciting driver to watch. He's another driver that came from the open wheel ranks. If you remember, sort of a who is this guy and where did he come from? And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
Imagine if he had a little bit of backing, because he did flirt a little bit sort of with the K&N series down south, ran a few ARCA races and obviously a few Xfinity races, and did very well. So, but just couldn't really catch on with sponsors that would give him the full shot. So drivers like that, and Tagliani is already a world-class driver. He sat on the pole for the Indianapolis 500. I mean, think about that achievement for a second, and how many drivers can say, I'm a pole sitter for the Indy 500. There's not many. And he's in the NASCAR Pinty Series. So the caliber of drivers that this series attracts is fantastic. Even if you look at some of the drivers that have passed through, I know some of the Xfinity drivers and moved on to Cup, Austin Dillon and Christopher Bell, Kaz Grala, they have come and run a few races with the Pintys Series, really to build on road course, just do their homework when running road courses. The Pinty Series cars are vastly different from what they run in the US, but it does give them a little bit of practice on turning left and right and, hitting your shift points and stuff like that. But even those drivers, I mean, how many even finished on the podium? Top fives were hard to come by. So, it's the quality of the driver in the Pinty Series is second to none for sure. Julia Landauer went to Europe and she finished on the podium in Europe, but racing in the Pinty Series, she did well. Don't get me wrong; she didn't look out of place, not by any means.
No,
failed to crack the podium in the Pinty Series. So it's a tribute to how many good drivers call this series home.
Yeah, and for me, that was, I think, the coolest thing about it is that you can get drivers from all the people that Brandon McReynolds came in.
That's right.
And then even after all this time, Graydon and I loved seeing Kenny Forth come out of completely. Him and J.R. Fitzpatrick from the NASCAR days, all of a sudden they show back up. It's almost like, we're the series that people just, you see it a lot and we talked about with Justin Bonsignor, you see it in the modified series. You've had competitors in that series for years and they come back and back and back. It doesn't matter. They're racers and they love to do it. And we're race fans and we love seeing them come in, and you talked about the guys, Don Thompson. He was, to me, as we see from the diecast right there.
Yep.
To me, I thought of him as our Intimidator because it was the black number 4.
Oh, for sure.
Home hardware, right? And he was kind of that mysterious, quiet, kind of unsuspecting. But when he got onto the track, it was, domination.
Oh, yeah.
So we went from like the guys who are, we could tell that they were successful. But let's talk 2020, 2019. We've had, again, a lot of drivers come through. Is there a driver that you feel flies under the radar and we just haven't seen them come out of their shell yet and, really could be a major force, an underrated driver?
That's a good question. And I'm not sure if we haven't seen, because almost every driver that I would consider underrated has shown flashes of brilliance. You know what I mean? Even, you look at the 2020 season, Connor James had a spirited run at Sunset with no nose on the car. He couldn't even touch anybody. And here's a driver and you're like, where did he come from all of a sudden? So you have those faces of Brett Taylor, who's starting to flex his muscle and land on the podium more frequently. So Yeah, I think it just takes a little while to get accustomed to these cars, but uh, you look at the strength of the late model series that we have in Canada, and even drop it down a little bit to the super stocks and Thunder cars, what they were called back in the day. The depth of field there too is incredible. So you've got somebody like the Lapsoviches. So Caden Lapsovich essentially jumps out of a Thunder car, super stock, and he gets into a Pintys Series car, and he's champion within a couple of years. So you've got those drivers as well, and they're just sort of waiting there, and it's a big leap to go from a super stock, from a regular Saturday night show, to get into the NASCAR Pinty Series. I mean, the funding you need to sort of make that happen is a very, very big jump, and that's what's holding them back. But it would be very cool to see a lot of those drivers in the series and get a shot.
You spoke to it right there. The economy, you kind of touched on almost all of it, actually. I mean, 2019. 2019 was such an epic season. I mean, Andrew Ranger gets his third championship, another one for DJK.
That final race.
Everything. Yeah, that race. I mean, like the pictures, we were right up at the rope when he was jumping out of the car, and like the fresh tire smoke and everything. I mean, you can't imagine anything more cool than that. And without anyone's I mean, we had the rug swept out from under us, put it that way. Yeah. And here we are, where I feel like where 2019 we were, when I say I mean we're fans, but like the Pintys Series, there's been a rebuilding trend since arguably, let's call it Pinty's entry point. They've been the series has been on a real upswing in terms of exposure and getting it out there, largely thanks to Tony Spiteri. And you guys calling a great product as usual. We're in a rebuilding process with beyond any circumstances beyond our control. 2021, we look at it with optimism. We don't know the schedule. I was kind of hoping we could talk to you a little bit about the new schedule, but like you, we're all waiting for the new schedule to be released. Yeah. We have kind of some ideas. We're really looking forward to that dirt race. How about you, Dave?
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. And when I sort of cut my racing teeth, so watching motorsports for the first time, it was at dirt tracks, because I grew up, I was born in Montreal. I spent 13 years living just outside of Montreal, and then moved to the Ottawa area for a while, and then up into the GTA. But so the tracks that I grew up watching, Brockville, Cornwall on Sunday nights, we used to cross the border into Akwesasne and go to Frogtown, which is no longer Frogtown. I forget I think it's called Mohawk Raceway now. But those are the tracks that we used to go to and we used to watch. So dirt track for me it's awesome. I love dirt track, and I've had the opportunity to call live races at Brighton in recent years, helping out the Rinaldis, and that facility is fantastic too. They get amazing car counts, and the racing is second to none. So
I've heard that.
Yeah, so you've got a Schweeken getting great car counts. You got Brighton doing well in the East End, but dirt tracks are cool. They're just cool. And to see our cars running on dirt track is going to be interesting. So
there's a lure there, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I will go and make a prediction right now that I'm gonna say Ranger is gonna be the one to watch in that race.
That's nice. The first time we've heard that name.
His dad used to run dirt modifieds. I used to watch his dad growing up running dirt modifieds. He used to run in Quebec mostly, but he would come over to Cornwall to watch or to run the big race specials and the Syracuse qualifiers and stuff. So I think he's probably going to be the guy to beat on dirt.
I'll tell you, man, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. I mean, look at what Ranger's done in his career in the Pintys Series he came in on the limited schedule and slowly worked his way into full time. But I mean, in a short amount of time, he's the all-time series wins leader. And it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if you went out there and just taught everybody how it was done in a dirt car, which it sounds like, knowing the little amount that we do know about 2021, it sounds like Andrew might get a couple of shots back in the car again, which sure hope to see. I mean, it's, I don't want to say it because I feel like I'm part of it, but there's almost like a champion's curse sometimes with the series, where the next year the champion kind of has something beyond his control take him out of it, and Ranger was a victim of that. So as a fan of the series, I sure hope to see him back again.
Absolutely, and exactly what you guys are doing, sort of building the hype and building the scope of the series and letting more people know about it is the best thing, because you know, you guys might think that, well, we're just doing a little podcast, we're not really doing anything special, but you are, and it's something that the drivers can be like, look at, even our fans are behind us so much so that they want to talk about it almost every week. So I think it's great what you guys are doing to help the series and raise it up in the eyes of Canadians and in the eyes of Canadian fans too.
Well, and that's,
thank you.
I mean, that means, listen, to come from watching and listening to you call those races that we both love, to hear that from you is just, it's so cool. So because you've also watched so many races and you've seen a lot of great finishes, Dave.
Oh man.
I'm gonna have to.
He knows where it's going.
Yeah.
Gonna have to ask.
Yeah.
Now I have my favorites. I don't know if Graydon will go over his, but for me, what was it? I believe it was Labbé and Lapsevich at Chaudier.
That was great.
Back and forth for like 30, 40 laps, just on the side. Unbelievable. Mixie and Ranger.
It's infamous.
Everywhere.
It doesn't even matter. It could be Trois Rivières. It could be Montreal, because that was
that's like the Harvick and Gordon 29-24 beating doors in Atlanta type thing.
Yeah, Ranger and Bowles finish
At Montreal.
At Montreal.
Ranger and driver here.
That one was electric when that happened.
Oh my
because
God.
obviously
I watched, because some of these races are on YouTube.
Yeah.
I could not believe how loud. I've never even heard a NASCAR crowd down south be that loud before.
Oh, I know. It was insane. Well, I mean, it was the build up to the Busch Series race, right?
Yes.
At that, so the fans had already packed in, and the place was jammed because once the Pintys Series race was done, then the Busch Series cars are rolling out and they're going green flag. So all these fans are like, wait, who's leading? It's a Quebec guy? Oh, hang on. Drink my beer, watch this. And then he did exactly that, like, the nose into the wall of champions for Jason Olsen. Oh, man.
It was Canada versus US. It had to be done.
Oh, it was. The storylines are phenomenal. I mean, you look at that one. You look at the one with Mixie and Ranger at Montreal in at Trois Rivières. I mean, those finishes are legendary.
Priceless.
And then even you look at Hathaway and J.R. Fitzpatrick at Barrie Speedway.
Oh yes, that's a good one.
And Colin races at Barrie for the better part of 10 years. That place always held a special place in my heart. And I always thought it was difficult for those drivers to get around well, but the races that they put on were fabulous. I mean, there was another one too where Don Thompson ended up in the wall because of a tight race with TJ Kennington right at the end. And it was like, you paid for a show. You're gonna get it when they come to a small track like Barrie.
And it's one of those debates that seems to be very hot within the NASCAR community, Dave, is that should NASCAR be implementing more road courses and street courses? A lot of talk about it within the Cup Series and Xfinity and trucks, but I think we have been proof that you can race on the streets, you can race on road courses and with stock cars, and it can be an amazing show, especially that we do it at CTMP in the rain, and it was a huge
annually
people at the Roval this year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at LeBay. As soon as it rains, he's like
right to the front.
I'm in. But even all the road courses, he's looking at the Xfinity schedule this year. There's so many more road courses than there has been in years past. And he's like, this is awesome because it gives him a leg up because he's got so much practice. And I think the balance that the Pinty Series has struck with the bigger tracks with like Jukasa, it would be nice to have a couple more bigger tracks to really sort of let the cars flex muscle and get some speed out of them. But I do love the races on the shorter tracks, even going to Flamborough for the first time. That was pretty neat. And hoping that the series does make a trip back to Flamborough in the future. I think once they have a notepad done and get some setups under those cars, that those races will be great too. So, and like I said, Jukasa it is the crown jewel, and it never disappoints when the series stops there. I love going to that place, and I love seeing the races that the series gets to put on there. Yeah, I mean, it's been unfortunate that some of the tracks have closed up. We don't get to go to Kawartha anymore. I mean, Mossport's a thing of the past. Barrie Speedway's unfortunately gone. But then you find new gems in Autodrome Chaudière. I mean, that's a great track. Yeah. And the series deserves to go there. And they put on a great show every time they go.
I will drive there one day.
It's yourself too, for sure.
He's gonna have to bring me along in a trailer or something.
Oh no, yeah. I just bought a new trailer. There's all kinds of room in the Durango. There's a Dodge plug for you.
Perfect.
I know we could talk for days here, but I want to put this out there. I call him the kid because I don't actually know him his real name. TSG2110 on Twitter just today was saying that he couldn't believe that we got to meet and hang out with you guys, and that brings me into my funny story. I don't know if you know this, Dave, or not, but I can't even. I think it was 2017. We were camping at CTMP in May, and I went into the ticket office at the gate to get my camping pass, and you were in there, and I was like, holy crap, it's Dave Bradley. And I was going to try and say something, and I was just like, oh my God, and I didn't. And so...
Oh, you totally should have.
I know. Me now was like, you dumbass. That's just like asking... I say this in parallel, asking a girl to dance. The worst they're going to be is just like kind of walk away from you or whatever and act like you're a weirdo. Or they're going to be like, hey, how are you? But so anyway, I wanted to say that, and I'm going to push them to listen to this episode, kid. I don't know your real name, but as I said to him in response, I mean, if you're a fan of the series needs, and he's a 17-year-old kid or around there, I'm pretty sure. The series needs fans of all creed, color, age, sex, whatever. I mean, and as anybody that does something for a living likes to be praised for what they do. So if he walked up to you and said, hey, Dave, I'm a big fan of you guys in the booth, I don't think that would offend you at all, would it?
No, not at all. I'm still awkward with praise, but that's just me. But you know what? If you're coming up to me and you want to talk about race cars, then I'll chat your ear off for a long time for sure. It's funny. I used to go to Motorama with my wife. And drag her out. I'm like, come on, let's go we'll go walk around. And she's like, I can't go with you anymore because you walk 3 steps and somebody else comes up to you and talks to you.
Man, our wives sound very similar.
And then of course I want to talk to them because I want to get to know them and I want to learn their story as well a little bit too, and what brings them out and what interests them. So yeah, by all means, if you see me walking around, unless I'm running somewhere and trying to get batteries for something for the television broadcast, in which case I'll still say hello, but I'll say I gotta be over
passing.
there. Exactly. But, yeah, if you see me just sort of milling about, touch me on the shoulder or come up and say hello and definitely shake my hand. I'd love to meet anybody who's a fan of the series or a fan of motorsports in general. Just come on up and say hello. Don't be shy.
There you go, kid.
It's right there for you. I will definitely attest to that. The one things that I said right after is we're lucky that our series is some of the most humblest, friendliest, people. Like,
It's such a family atmosphere.
It is.
You
Yeah.
would not. We've been to races down south. It's not the same atmosphere. I know we'd love it for it to be the same way, but you can't go onto the grid. You can't go touch the cars. You can't go get an autograph from every driver on the grid. Take pictures with them. That's what the experience is all about. I remember being that kid. I grew up seeing my first race in 2003 at Mosport Speedway and being in awe of the cars, being in awe of the drivers, and getting to talk with the people that I watched for so long it's effing crazy. Like,
Yeah. You know what? I'll stop you right there, because I did the same thing with the NASCAR series. When I was an announcer at Barrie Speedway, they said we're going to bring the NASCAR Super Series to the track, and seeing the I used to call it the circus, because the circus was in town. I mean, you put the big top up because like all the big sponsors, we'd put extra grandstands up, and it was a really, really big deal. And then you see the cars all roll out on grid, and they're all sparkling and shiny, and I'm like,
Oh,
this is kind of the real deal. Like, this is exciting, and this is the big time. For Canadian motorsports, it is the big time.
Yeah.
You look at the haulers in the pits, and the crews running around and working on them. Now I get to know them, and I'm like they're regular people too, and they love talking about racing. They love talking about what they do, and then sometimes like talking about things outside of racing as well too. So, but yeah, it's an exciting thing to see for the first time if you haven't had a chance to see it in real life.
And I think that's what we're, like you said, we're here for. We're trying to get people to come out. One thing that we have to remember is, for us, at least for my family, it was an alternative to going down south because we didn't have the money to go see a race. Down south.
same here.
It's way more affordable, and I remember being at UCAS and somebody referring it, and I always thought of it as it's NASCAR. It's not NASCAR. It's the NASCAR Pintys Series. It's not technically NASCAR. But I was speaking with a fan that was in the stands with us, and he was, much older than I was, but he was just so excited because he finally got to see NASCAR.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, I've had the wrong attitude towards this series, and that's kind of where my light switch was just kind of like, no, we need to be out there. We need to promote it. You guys do such a fantastic job, and it needs to be rewarded. And, I feel like that's the same with a lot of racing, is that if corporate America could just see what product we have,
yeah,
that's through us doing a podcast, through the race broadcasts being on television down south, whether it is through doing fictional cars like through iRacing or through other rendering programs, it's possible to get companies interested. And I think once they were to get that, we've seen them, like Kubota came on board. We've seen Party Casino.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brand new sponsor. Absolutely.
And
new names. I love seeing new names. Yeah.
Yeah. And to see, I mean, for you guys, it's got to be cool to see, companies coming aboard and you're getting to talk about, hey, this is a Party Casino car and it's on the racetrack, and there's going to be a commercial that you're going to put in the show afterwards. Like, promotion of a series is everything.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the series, while it has expanded all the way out west, all the way out east, it's kind of, it went stuck in Ontario for last year. But do you feel that it does need a bit of a refresh to try and get major corporate companies involved? Because I feel like we're trying to find who it is that we want to come into this series. Obviously we could be like, oh, we'll take anybody, right?
Yeah.
That's not really the truth, right? We want to have people that will come in and then stay, right? That's the hardest, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, that's the hardest thing, is to keep money, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are companies that'll dive in for a little while and then say, well, it may be not worth our while. Or I think more often than not, the heads of these companies or those in charge of sponsorship will change out, and they're not race fans. You know, they're like, well, and you mentioned it earlier, we've got hockey. Let's go back the hockey team. You know, look at how many people are in the stands there and how many games they play and things like that. But I think for not just NASCAR fans, but any motorsport fan, I think it's so important to know that the fans are so brand loyal. I mean,
right there,
I've been in the grocery store, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm buying detergent and I'm like, oh, Tide sponsors a race car, I'll buy that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If two are the same price, I'm just like, Tide it is, because they sponsor motorsports. And I preach, you know, support the businesses that support motorsports. And you know, it doesn't matter what it is. WeatherTech mats, I've got them in my car. I bought you know, General Tires and put them on my car as well, just because, you know, I wanted to support the companies that support, especially the series, but motorsports in general. And I think that's an important message to drive home to companies that are looking to back the series. And is that, yes, we have fans, and yes, they're out there, and we're trying to reach them as much as possible. And when we do, they will support you. They will absolutely back you because they want to see this thing succeed. So, you know, what's funny is you talk about going south to races. I've only been to one NASCAR race down south.
Why?
I went to Homestead, the finale in Homestead years ago, but it was a good one. We went out for the week and, you know, ended up staying and watching the trucks and the Xfinity and the Cup Series race. But yeah, it was a cool experience. I'd never been to a track where the cars go that fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You stand at the end of the straightaway, and I was like, wow, this is something else.
Who was the champion that year that you went?
Oh, who was the champion?
Be a good bet it was probably Jimmy Johnson, right?
Yeah, I think it probably was Jimmy Johnson. I think Carl Edwards won the race and Jimmy Johnson won the championship.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like 2008.
2014-ish. Yeah, because I think 2014 is about that time. So, but I've been lucky enough to go to some pretty cool races in and around. I've never been to the F1 race in Montreal. I'd like to go one day. Even growing up in Montreal, I mean, I used to go. My aunt lived right downtown, and we could hear the cars, especially back in those V12 days. You hear the cars, and I'm like,
those ones.
We should go, but you know, but I've always just liked grassroots motorsports better because, like you say, it's attainable. I mean, it's you get to meet your heroes, and
yes,
that aspect will build fans and keep fans. Because I remember going, you know, in Cornwall races, and they still race Sunday nights, and then the races would finish and begging my parents to go walk through the pits and meeting Barefoot Bob McCready and Doug the Ox Carlisle and you know, Marcel the Hammer LaFrance, and so you watch these guys out on the track and they're your heroes on the track, and then you meet them in the pits, and you know, they're larger than life, and you know, I still have the pictures that I bought of them, and I got them autographed and things like that. So that's how you're gonna build the fan base. And I think the Pintys series, like you say, does it really, really well with holding those autograph sessions. And I've seen behind the scenes too. Like those autograph sessions are taken seriously by the promoters and by the series officials. They're not thrown away. And even when you have questionable weather coming in, or there's tight timelines, or something has happened to delay the show, we're getting the autograph session in. That's important. We might not do it on track with the cars, but we'll
Kawartha.
Up. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many?
Remember that? Was that 2015?
I think so.
Where we were all jammed in the building. That was like the most captivating NASCAR fan experience. That, like, my boys were tiny then, but like where that was like the more intimate setting. I mean, current time aside, that would never fly right now, of course, but I mean, we were all jammed in there that it would almost violate fire code. Larry Jackson would have freaked out, but but like all of us, like drivers and you guys and all the fans and everything, like everyone was just mingling together like it was a party, and my kids were just in awe of it. Totally. And speaking to what you said too, I mean, in terms of, I took my kids to Owen and I went to the CTMP race in 2015. It was just him and I, because Riley was pretty little and I didn't really want to drag him around. But we got to see that crazy finish where we thought Scott, and they were the big Scott Steckley fans. So Owen thought he was going to see Scott bring his first and only career road course win. And then the monster trucking happened, and then Gary stole it. And but there was that. And then we went to Sunset that year as well. And what you say, when you're meeting their heroes at that time, and now, I mean, the respect is there, but like there was no discernible difference to them between Scott Steckley and Dale Earnhardt Jr. I mean, and we went back into the pits there at Sunset, and they drew Scott. It's big time when they draw the guys' pictures, right? So they drew Scott a picture, and they wanted to give it to him, but their knees were knocking, and myself even too at that time, I was kind of like, oh my God, we got to go up and just talk to him. They were wrenching on the car and stuff. So, but at the end of the day, this is speaking to what you're saying about the diversity of the series, the humility of the people in it, like top to bottom, every facet of it. You guys, the drivers, it's a family feel, and that's what makes repeat customers. And so that's we're in gratitude for you guys to put that product on TV. And it's my kids are growing up with it. And I was tying that into what you said about going down south. Actually, we've been to a few races down south, but we haven't gone to one since the Daytona 500 in 2015, because we've just kept it at home because we'd like to keep it here. Like the product is every bit as compelling, and why not support everybody back home?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like you say, I mean, if you can do 3 races in Canada for the price that you would spend to go to 1 in the US, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, more racing is better than less racing, right?
And we're just tenters too. So, I mean, just to lug the tent down and set it up at Jacasa or CTMP and see you guys do your thing is great.
Hey, I've been, again, I used to go to the Trans Am weekend at CTMP and tent in turn 2, and you wake up to cars going in one ear and out the other.
Yes.
It sounds like, right? But there's no place I'd rather be waking up on a Saturday or Sunday morning.
Oh, 100%. You wake up to the engines going ram ram.
Yep.
Oh God, so great.
Cool. Let me get my lawn chair and away we go.
Yep. I'm gonna need to capture the audio of you going rap rap. That's that's got to be kept at the beginning of our show, I think. We use that as a sound effect. That's fantastic.
Oh, God, please no.
Well, Dave, we are, like I said, we could talk for hours and hours and hours about racing, really. It is such a thrill to have you on the show, and we honestly are dying to get back to the racetrack, to actually do fans
so much
track, you know. Be able to chat with you guys actually on a race weekend.
Totally.
Cars going around in the background. So we want to
it wasn't the same in 2020 for sure. It was once the races got going, it was the same, but it was super weird to walk through the stands and have them empty.
Yeah, so we want to be there in the pits. We want to be there, talking with our TSN, NASCAR and TSN crew. We don't just wear these because we were given them. We wear them with pride.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks to Joel for promotional apparel for this episode.
So
funny, when I race my car, I've got a NASCAR on TSN race suit. One of the ones left over. I think Joel used to wear a race suit in the pit, so he's like, "I got one. Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll wear that."
Nice.
So it's kind of cool to walk around the track with a NASCAR on TSN suit.
For sure.
All right. So Dave, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely make sure that we chat again later this year, and hopefully at the racetrack.
Yeah, don't be a stranger by any means. And it was a lot of fun. I was really looking forward to this, and I thank you very much for having me on.
We thank you, Dave.
Yeah, we honestly, like I said, listening to you in 2007, all these years later, and you're on fan side with me. That's pretty cool. Definitely want to thank Dave Bradley for coming along. Want to send our condolences to all those at Chicasa Motor Speedway on their loss this past couple weeks ago. And we definitely want to thank Remax Jack for sponsoring this episode of Fanside. Definitely, guys, keep it tuned here. We've got more coming up very soon.
Thanks for listening, race fans. Time to enjoy some wings and some racing. We'll catch you next week on Race Canada Fanside. Don't forget, you can find Cam on social media at CamK Racing. Or Graydon on Twitter at Smooth Operator.